My Chapter 1. My paw slipped on dry earth. I kicked the shrouds of dust and hurtled toward the fence. Swerving to avoid it, I righted myself and dived under the splintering dead wood. My pursuer was gaining on me as I grasped for the wild way. The tangle of greenery on the other side. I caught the rich aroma of hazel and cedar, the quiet and peace of the world beyond the web of grass. His shrill cry shattered the silence. With a surge of panic I squeezed beneath the fence. Clods of soil clasped my belly, tugging me back. My heart thundered in my ears. For an instant the dead wood enclosed me, pinning me to the earth. The grass mocked me, tickling my whiskers. With a desperate shake I was free, lost in the green maze of the wild way. Stooping snowdrops bobbed on their stems, snaps of wild light. I held my breath. A pointed snout poked under the fence, stabbing the air. The fox's amber eyes caught mine. The black slits narrowed. Fear murmured at the back of my neck. I calmed myself. I was safe. He was too large to shuffle beneath the fence. He smacked against it with a growl, his slender black foreleg reaching through the gap, his claws grazing the earth by my paw. I reared back, keeping my eyes on the fence. He couldn't go any further. He knew it, too. He drew himself away, his leg disappearing behind the fence. I could hear him pacing. Flashes of mottled red coat were visible each time he passed the gap. Then he disappeared from view and grew quiet. I was quiet, too, inhaling the air. I sensed the fox, the shape of his body, the silver and gold-dappled brush of his tail. I pictured the color in his eye on my mind and felt the bristles of his tail hairs as though I was touching them. For an instant I saw the far side of the fence and tasted the frustration that tingled on his tongue. I knew this fox was like my shadow. My ear rotated. A bird was cawing in a nearby tree. It was large, its feathers glossy black, and it paused when it spotted me. It dipped its beak, stepping nervously from foot to foot. Then it arched its shimmering wings as though summoning storm clouds. With an angry caw it rose in the sky. Wood shrieked as it spun around, my heart lunging against my chest. He had thrown himself at the gap! He burst through the shower of wood chips. My stomach clenched, and I bolted, plunging through the grass. I threw a look over my shoulder and saw him. For an instant he hunkered down to the ground. In the flicker the fox vanished before my eyes. The air in his wake and his gossamer sheen, the light bent through the wings of bees. The earth was a blur of grass and soil. I knew his tricks and blinked furiously, catching a flash of his pelt. I rounded a tree stump in flurry of grass. When I glanced back again he was in plain sight, his fur a blaze of red as he vaulted the stump. His breath was at the tip of my brush, but I had a trick of my own. I threw my jaws and opened my jaws and cawed like a bird with the shimmering feathers. I cast my voice to the twisted trails of the grass stems, to the fence, and the earth, and the clouds that gathered at the edges of the sky, mimicking the creature as best I could. I zigzagged through the grass that snaked around my paws, pulling and beckoning, slowing me down. I gave up. The cawing, it wouldn't fool anyone. I snuck another look over my shoulder. He was dangerously close now, his muzzle at my heels. "Peary!" I yelped as he pounced at me as his claws glanced my brush. I might have known that the bird call wouldn't stop him. I turned to face him, baring my teeth. "Enough!" I hissed. His eyes caught the light. Not till he begged for mercy. I started to run again, but with a final leap he slammed his paws against my back and he threw me to the ground. I bucked against his grip, but he was stronger than me. "Mercy!" he gasped. "Say it!" "Never!" I spat. He pressed his muzzle to my ear. Say it or else." "Or else what?" "Or else this." He dropped on top of me, covering my face with long lashes of his tongue, licking my ears, my nose, and my whiskers. I growled and licked my brother back, tickling his belly till he whimpered and twisted away, rolling in the dirt as I swiped at his neck. "You see, there is no or else. You may be bigger than me, but I'm cleverer, and I always win." He allowed me to assault him with gentle nips. "I let you win," he panted. "I know what a bad loser you are. You're dreaming." I clambered to my paws and shook off my fur. Peary looked up at me, his head cocked. "Whatever you say, little fox," he jackered mischievously. A series of high-pitched stuttering clicks. "Mad fox, bad fox, just another dead fox." It was something we often chanted together, as though Great Mutt complained It set her hairs on end. I'm not that much smaller than you, I scowled. He hopped and skipped and turned on the spot with a cheerful wow, wow, wow. Little fox, you always be a little fox. I sprang at him, but he ducked out of the way. And you'll always be a foolish brother, I sniffed. He leaped back at me, pressing the white of his muzzle against my neck. The game was over. I didn't fight him any more. I closed my eyes and let the warmth of my body seep into mine. I could feel his pulse against my jaw. My own seemed to fall into step with it. We ran to the same ka-thump, ka-thump, growing slower now. Ka-thump, ka-thump. Fox stepped out in between the tall grass. I hope you're playing nicely together, foxlings. Ma appeared beside him. Nicely? Her eyes twinkled. He hurried toward them, panting as they licked our ears, clicking and warbling. We're always nice, yipped Peary, throwing me a look. Ma seemed ready to question this, but stopped when Great Ma approached. Like Peary, her fur was mottled in thick hairs of silver ginger and gold that glistened in the night. Her eyes were watchful and seemed distracted when he ran into hers. The furless fowl watched her face for clues. We stared over the grass. The Wild Way was a narrow area, little more than a path of green between gray territories, dotted with a few young trees. The two-legged furless rarely entered here, but they were always close, baying, pacing, beating at the tempo of their noisy lives. The great snarl was the world, forbidden to young foxes, a rigid land of towering buildings and manglers with unblinking eyes. Snatchers stalked when the sun was up. Furless were sticks who rounded up foxes that were never seen again. Great Ma pulled her gaze away. It was nothing. She lowered her muzzle and touched our noses. You play so rough, you two, Peary. You're larger than Isla. I hope you remember that. She's tough as dried rat skin, he sniffed, giving me a friendly shove. Great Ma's snout crinkled. All the same, I can hold my own, I piped up. Mad fox, bad fox. Stop that, growled Great Ma. The snarl is dangerous. You shouldn't joke about it. Peary moved quickly to lighten the mood. Isla's bird call really threw me, he told Great Ma. She cocked her head to watch me more closely. Were you imitating a crow? My breast thumped the grassy earth. I was more interested in what Peary was saying. It really worked? Peary panted cheerfully. I didn't think it was your voice at all. I was coming from nowhere and everywhere. It was one of his downy black ears flipped back. It was like the wind was calling in the earth and the grass. I didn't know where it was. Then the bird call stopped and I realized it was you. I tipped my head and watched him. Was he teasing me? But I didn't fool you. My voice came out as a whine, and my ears were flat. You should have kept it up. You're getting too good at that, little fox. He nuzzled my shoulder and I nipped him gently. You both have fine instincts, said Great Ma, a hint of pride in her voice. She lifted her snout and her face grew still. Her eyes stared unblinking. The tensing of whiskers her only movement. A breeze is rising, she murmured. It is touched with river and ice. The rain will be here by first light. But the air is warm, I blurted out. Ma stepped closer, her ears twisting so they pointed out to my sides. What simple lesson can save a fox's life? Peary and I spoke together. Watch, wait, listen. The tension eased on Great Ma's face as he looked at us with affection. That's right, foxlings. Watch, wait, listen. The answers are written in the song of the sky, in the rhythm of the earth. She raised her muzzle and sniffed again. I mimicked her, inhaling the fragrance of grass, and I sensed no dampness, only the mild air of deep sun. The clouds fringing the sky were white. I blinked at them, remembering how Great Ma's teaching that were only the dark ones heavy with rain. She must have caught the confusion in my face as she gave my nose a reassuring lick. Fosh trod next to us. We should move the kill. It's in a shallow catch. The rain will spoil it. Ma and Fosh stared toward the fence. Great Ma trailed behind them, throwing A quick, anxious glance into the sky. They were too big to crawl under the gap where the wood was broken, even where Perry burst through and made it larger. They skittered along the edge of the wild way to the far edge side of the fence. There was a tree there with a drooping branch that bridged our patch. Peary knew about this tree, just as I did. We'd wobbled along the branch many times, but we'd never used it during our chase. Play had rules. We both understood that. "Come on," called Ma. I wasn't ready to leave. There was sweetness in the air. Were berries hidden in a tangle of grass? I licked my chops. Peary was busy with a stick, rolling it in the grass and gnawing on it like a bone. I sat, ears flattened. We'd only just got to the wild way. Fox called over his shoulder. "We'll come back later, Peary. Isla." Peary turned to follow them, abandoning the stick. I rose to my paws. A deep sniff, and I was certain they were berries. If I gathered a few and took them back to the den, the others would be pleased. And if I was quick, I'd still be there before them. Ma, Fa, and Great Ma had to move the kill. I crouched down, slipping between the long grasses. I followed my nose. I shivered with pleasure, absorbing the aroma of earth and bark, the sour tang of leaves and insects and their bitter shells. I paused to tear off some snowdrops, which always looked better than they tasted. A large green beetle squatted along the soil. I battered at it excitedly, tearing grass with the sweep of my claws. The beetle was quicker than it looked. It scurried toward the base of the tree, where it was hard to reach, nosing its way between bucking roots. I plunged my snout into the soil, snapping and yipping, but instead of the beetle, I brought up a mouthful of dirt. Forget the beetle, I told myself, my thoughts returning to the berries. I sniffed and prowled around the wild way, but the sweet scent had faded. There was a new chill in the air that made me remember Great Ma's warning of rain. A breeze touched with the river and ice. I looked to the sky. Darkness was creeping over jagged gray buildings. The sun slunk now, trailing of crimson light. I turned back toward the fence with a guilty slip of a heart. Ma and Fa would be worried about me. I was not allowed on my own in the wild way. Was not even supposed to leave our patch without Pyrie. I retraced my steps to the fence and crawled underneath. Our patch lay to the far side of the fence. It was a space we shared with the furless, though we were careful to avoid it when they were out. Like us, only one family used it. 2 adults, 2 young. Fa had warned us that they wouldn't be friendly, that they'd turn on us if we came too close. We kept our distance. Our den was set far away from theirs, behind the copse, not far from the fence. I gambled toward it, thinking of the catch. Ma, Fa, and Great Ma would have dug out those juicy rats they caught last night. My belly growled. I picked up speed. A bitter smell seized my nose. I saw a flare of red lights amid the darkness in the den. Smoke spun in slow plumes, murky against the last frizzle of the sun. A ripple of fear ran along my back. "Where's my family?" I didn't sense them. I took a step closer. There was movement in the den. My chest unclenched, and I bounded forward, the instant of confusion gone. Then my paw steps faltered, and the blood drained from my body. Things that were moving in there, I could tell it wasn't them. It wasn't my family. I backed into a cluster of ivy that hung off the fence that far from the gap that led to the wild way. The den was a trench by the fallen tree, hidden beyond the copse amid fallen branches. It was hard to see what was going on in there. I could just make out the shapes of unfamiliar foxes, maybe 5 or 6, creeping about, digging and yelping at each other. What are they doing? Didn't the smoldering earth single their paws? I squeezed deeper behind the ivy, holding my breath as they climbed, one by one, from the den. They stepped onto the grass, snouts low, ears pricked. Then they were met by Fix-It Vixen, who trod toward the entrance, her brush curling around her flank. From behind the tumbling ivy I could see her short round ears and her lumbering frame. Her fur bunched at her shoulders, as though she had too much of it. She thumped a forepaw on the earth. Her ears swerved around, and the other foxes looked at her. A growl rumbled in the vixen's throat. One great eye glared across her patch. Where the other eye should have been, there was nothing at all, a sunken cave of darkness.